What is going on, everyone? This is just going to be a quick LTC draft analysis for the league that I have joined as the Mossdeep Metagross. The logo credits obviously go to Tangela Boots for the awesome logo you can see in the bottom right hand corner. And the league logo is right there, LTC. Shout out to Dean, aka Fosse, for running the league. I have been waiting a few months to join this, and it looks like a fantastic league, and I know it's fantastically well run by a very, very intelligent, very awesome person. So shout out to him. He's actually in our division, so we'll be facing him twice this season, and I am more than excited. I've gotten to know him, and he's a fantastic league owner, and I'm so excited to be a part of his creation. So we're going to get into this draft analysis very quickly. And, you know, like other draft analyses, I'm going to start off with just sort of an introduction in what I was looking for, how I thought about what I was going to pick, and just get into the picks right after that, and then reflect and see if I hit my goals or not hit my goals. So obviously the first goal is to draft a good team. Obviously, I'm not trying to meme or anything, draft a mono-type team or anything like that. This is what I'm making my main league, which means I want to get good picks, and in doing that, I have to draft good Pokemon. The second goal is to fix errors that I've had from previous drafts, i.e. OWL and ABC. I wanted to draft at least 2 top-tier hazard clears because I've had a lot of trouble with hazard removal in both the ABC, the OWL League, and even the ZUL. So it's definitely something I need to work on. So I just was forcing myself. I needed to pick 2 top-tier hazard clears, not only T1s. My mindset was either like a T1 and a T3 or 2 T2s. So we'll see how that goes. I wanted to pick bulky mons with recovery, step outside a more hyper-offensive type of draft and a more bulky offense type of draft, because a lot of the time I think I'm hyper-offense and I draft hyper-offense and then tend going for a bulkier route with a team. So I'm going to try out more bulky offense this time around, and then I also want to pick up some high-tier ground resists and immunities because a lot of the time my drafts are kind of ground weak, so that seems rather important. And then things that I've sort of kept up with every draft I've done, but I also wanted to continue, is to draft 1 bulky water and an offensive water. I think that a lot of teams struggle against water types, and a lot of the time, a lot of teams can't capitalize on it because their water type is something like Toxapex or Elmamola, or on the other end, it can't really touch a bulky water type, and you're stuck with something like Greninja. So 1 bulky water and 1 offensive water is really useful for me, and they also patch a lot of nice weaknesses because it's such a defensive typing. So in ABC, for example, I did Greninja and Araquanid, and in the OWL, I did Rotom and I did Azumarill. So here, that's sort of the goal. And then high priority users, it's sort of a really, really nice way. I counter really offensive teams or fast, powerful mons. I just really, really enjoy using priority users that have high attack stats. And then the third is that I want all the mons to be valuable. I didn't want my T5s to go as jokes that my opponent doesn't have to prep for. I want all 12 mons, similar to my goal in ABC. I want all 12 mons to be of relatively similar value. Obviously that's impossible because a T1 will always be better than a T5, but I want them to be at least equally threatening given a good matchup. So that's sort of the goal there. I don't want there to be any mons that my opponent can be like, I don't have to prep for this and I'll be absolutely fine. So the first mon was Pangoro. I know it's a little bit weird because I was 6th pick and I ended up going for a tier 2 in the Pangoro slot, but in the first draft pick slot. But haven't used this in OWL. I actually only brought it out in 1 game out of the 12 that I played, or out of the 11 that I played, I should say. I only brought it out in 1 game and brought it in 3, but I did really like its matchup a lot. It was just outshined by a lot of things. And, you know, I think in a world where there's something like infinite Z moves and where Pangoro can be the star of the show, and where I can build around it with some higher tier mons given its value in T2, it was really, really nice. Infinite Z moves allows for Z parting shot, which is really, really nice. Z snatch, which will boost my speed, and then also something like a diverse move pool in Pangoro is really, really nice because, you know, earthquakes and headbutt, elemental punches, probably a lot more. X Scissor can use a lot of a diverse move pool, which is really, really key. And then knockoff is really, really nice in this format. The speed is obviously a hindrance, but in a world where the draft is actually slower than a regular tier draft, you know, the 58 speed isn't actually that bad. It checks a box off that priority list and bullet punch, and then I do think dark types are really, really necessary in a draft. So it's an immediate dark type. I don't have to worry about picking them on that is going to have to patch up that desire later in the draft. I can have it right here. The only other downside of Pingoro is the 4x fairy weakness, which isn't that bad here because there aren't a lot of fairy types, because a lot of fairy types are high tiered, hence banned in the league. And then, also it doesn't really matter because for the slow fairy types, Pingoro gets Gunk Shot, which is an insanely powerful poison type move, and with an infinite Z move user, I can definitely use Gunk Shot to my advantage there as well. Alright, so the next thing I picked up was Rotom. I didn't actually like Rotom Wash in Owl, but I do think that in the LTC setting, I think that Rotom is going to be a lot more effective as a hazard clear. And the fact is, yes, it doesn't really have a lot of versatility, but I do think that in a low tier format, things like Specs and Scarf are a lot more viable than they would be in a higher tier league. So I think it's really nice, and I did sort of look at the hazard clears in the second tier, and Rotom seemed to be the best for me because it's immune to all hazards, and it additionally it also isn't weak to rocks. So it's the only hazard clear in tier 2 that had that characteristic. So that was really nice. Gain an immediate pivoter is also really nice, something with stab, volt switch that can do a ton of damage. And the other thing, which I have tended to lack in other drafts, is something that can just spam status and take advantage with it in terms of a move like Hex. So it can have Toxic, Willow, Discharge, Thunder Wave, all of which really help me spread status, cripple certain setup mons, etc. It does have fighting immunity, which will help out with Pingoro's weakness, which is a nice thing to patch early on. And then I actually noticed in the end draft and a few of my analyses of drafts in other seasons of this league, this is the first season I'm partaking in, but I did look at drafts from other seasons, as well as the D League or whatever they wanted to call it. A lot of LTC teams are really Ghost Weak. I don't know how or why. I just think it's because dark types are scarce, so a lot of teams end up being Ghost Weak for that reason. Alright, the next mon is Mesprit. It is my only tier 1 that I'm picking up this entire draft, and compared to other things like, I want to say Swellow and a few other really nice things, Durant is in my division, and Incineroar, it's definitely a little bit more underwhelming compared to those, but I did really like it because I think that it provides a really nice amount of versatility, and there really wasn't anything in the tier 1 that I was interested in using. So having Stealth Rocks, which I don't have yet on my draft, is really, really nice. Having a U-turn mon is really, really nice because it starts creating this bulky pivoting core with Mesprit and Rotom that is really, really useful. And then it has really, really insanely nice coverage. Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, U-turn, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam is only the start of it. And in addition, versatility in terms of status moves, things like I can't even think of it right now, but there are a lot of things in terms of Thunder Wave and Toxic and Trick and Memento. I think it might not get Memento. Trick though for sure. Recycled's really interesting. Yawn, all of those really niche, nice moves. And then it's another ground immunity, which starts filling the box of wanting the ground immunities early. And it's just all around good mon. I didn't really see anything else, like I said, in tier 1 that I really, really wanted, but I also didn't want to be stuck with anything too bad in tier 1, so I had to get this relatively early. Alright, the next mon I'm picking up is Electabuzz, and it's a bit weird because I already picked up Rotom as a second electric type, so I understand how weird it could possibly be, but they don't share any weaknesses, so I don't really care. And I think they do serve different purposes, one to be really offensive and one to be really defensive. And I do think given the matchup, they can trade roles in whatever instance the matchup is. So Electabuzz could be defensive and Rotom could be offensive if I need it to be. It's another great status spreader in the form of Static and Discharge and Toxic. And in a world where I can spam status with Thunder Waves and Static, and I can take advantage with it with Hex on Rotom, things getting paralyzed is going to really help Pangoro outspeed some bigger threats and do massive damage to them, so I really, really like that. It continues that nasty, bulky pivoting core. I wanted to pick Electabuzz early because it was better than the other Tier 3 electric types in the sense that it's bulkier, and I didn't want to have something like a hyper-offensive Raichu, which would have been kind of awkward given my draft, given its sort of bulky offense vibe it already is starting to take. And given that, I also think Electabuzz is just super under-tiered in Tier 3. I think it should be easily Tier 2, and if it was Tier 2, it'd be like the best of Tier 2, in my opinion. I think Electabuzz is super underrated, so it's super nice, and it also gives me something above the 100 speed tier, which is also very, very useful to have when prepping to be able to outspeed all those base 100 mons. They can't, all the base 100 mons can't go adamant or modest. They have to go, or wait, what am I saying? That's I don't know what I'm saying. Just something above the 100 speed tier is really, really nice to make sure that my opponents can't speed creep in a way that gives them adamant or modest, because of the fact that I'm making all my speed tiers very versatile. Alright, so here's where the bulk starts coming in, and I don't know how I feel about it just yet, but I do think that I'm really happy in the picks, because I do think all the bulky mons you're about to see have really, really strong offensive potential that I might whip out, in any game that I feel useful. It's the first bulky water at the team, which is really, really nice in Gastrodon. It's the first mon with reliable recovery, so it starts to check those, bulky water, not just bulky water, but just bulky mons with reliable recovery. Storm Drain's really, really nice. I don't have any water weaknesses yet, but it's just nice to, stop Scald users, to stop any just sort of strong offensive water mon, and just make them afraid of hitting that water move because of Storm Drain there, which will benefit Gastrodon in its special attack, I believe. So that's really, really nice. And like I said, this does have offensive potential. It has decent coverage in Ice Beams and Sludge Wave and Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam and Earth Power and Surf, Scald, Muddy Water, Hydro Pump. I mean, and that's just the start of it. It does have the special attack towards Hidden Powers, Ancient Power it has. And I think it's pretty solid. And I can see myself actually bringing an offensive Gastrodon with a baton passing Speedmon or a Trick Room Team or something like that, because I just think that Gastrodon really is a strong offensive mon, and I think a lot of teams won't expect that coming into a matchup where they're going into another sort of more offensive mon on Gastrodon because they feel comfortable, I guess, and then I can whip out like a max special attack modest Earth Power on them and completely blow them back. Gastrodon definitely has that potential, and I think it's going to be really useful in that capacity. And that has other niche options. Cursed, I saw Counter in Miracle, which is really cool. Memento, Trapping Potential, Yawn, and that's just the start of it. It does have ability to Amnesia if I ever want that, but generally I think it's just it's a lot more versatile than people think, and it has strong offensive possibilities if I ever need them. Alright, so the next mon is Golbat, and it's a pretty good hazard clear, and I wanted to pick it up early because I thought it really functioned as a really nice secondary hazard clear that would take pressure off Rotom from being the defogger of the team, and like I said, I do need either a T1 or a T2 hazard clear as per my goals. So it also gives me another ground immunity without making me too weak to ground, because it actually serves the resistances the poison type gives, but also doesn't give me the massive ground immunity, the ground weakness that usually poison types give off. And with U-Turn, it continues a bulky pivoting core that I have between all of my mons except Gastrodon. All the mons get pivoting moves, which is really nice. And it's just a bulky mon with offensive potential. I don't remember its attack stat off the top of my head, but I think it's like 85. And 85 paired with a Stab Brave Bird, no one wants to take that whatsoever. So yeah, they definitely gotta be careful. I think something like a Scarf Golbat, even a Banded Golbat is really, really useful. Life Orb Golbat, something like that, especially in this format. Maybe that's less viable in a regular tier. In a regular tier league, but I think in this league it's definitely a lot more viable to bring Golbat offensively, like sometimes people bring Crobat offensively in other higher tier leagues. And then obviously it has really nice Stallbreaker moves, setup, sweeper, stopping moves, things like Haze, Super Fang, Taunt, Whirlwind are all really, really nice. And I also just really wanted to pick up Golbat for nostalgia reasons. As if you know me really well, you'll know that I'm a Gen 6 Draft League player, and I saw Golbat get picked every single league I was in, and it was always tiered like in the middle. Like, and this isn't in lower tier leagues. This is like regular leagues. Like it would be put in like tier 3, sometimes tier 4, and it would get picked up pretty consistently. So I'm bringing it back from Gen 6. I think no one's using it in main leagues anymore, and I think that needs to change. So hopefully I can do Golbat some justice, make it a little bit more unforgotten in this new generation. Even though it's been a while for Gen 7, I'm just an old dinosaur. Okay, so the next mon is Metagross. I think it's really, really good. I needed to start picking up tier 5 like value picks, like things that my opponent has to be scared of, and I think Metagross is a perfect mon for that. Because it walls so many nice tier 1 mons, it walls so many physical attackers that don't have the ground coverage for it, and there's a lot of those in low tier leagues, as you might expect. And even if they do have something like a super effective move, the fear of something like Flame Body or something like Weak Armor definitely makes people scared of attacking Metagross straight on. And I think just a rock type with recovery is so rare and makes it so valuable as a tier 5 value pick. It's going to wall a lot of higher tier mons that I see, and I think I could bring in a lot more than other people bring their own tier 5s. The other appeal to Metagross was it starts to form a Fire, Water, Grass core with Gastrodon, and I also think that it pairs really, really well with Gastrodon because since Metagross is 4 times weak to water, Gastrodon is the water immunity, really, really helps out. And it also functions as a secondary stealth rocker, takes some pressure off Mesprit to do certain things, which is really, really nice. And then Shell Smash sweeping is there because there are a few fire weak teams in the league, and I think that the ability to have a Shell Smash sweeper like Metagross and go for a Fire Blast or a Fire EMZ, because once again, infinite Z moves is going to be really, really useful, and it continues this sort of unintentional status spreading team that I didn't even realize I had until I finished this draft with things like Lava Plume with 30% burns and Flame Body. The ability, like I said, of course, really nice with Gastrodon. I'm pretty satisfied with it. Alright, the next thing we have is Persian in tier 4. I looked at this and I thought it was massively under-tiered, honestly, because it was put in tier 3 earlier and then no one picked it in tier 3, which I find surprising given its speed and given its ability to be pretty powerful. It's kind of the best priority mod in the format, I feel, because Fake Out plus Feint, and Feint has +3 priority. Both those are stab, and combined are a 105 base power move that is a stab attack. It's basically just like together a stab return or a stab frustration, so I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I really like it. So it gives the team really necessary speed because I don't have anything above Electabuzz right now, so going 10 points higher in 115 is really, really nice. And then also continues, although this isn't really a bulky pivoter, having U-turn is super valuable. And then it just really does have that amazing Gen 1 special coverage. Obviously some of it isn't necessary because of Technician, but it is really nice to sort of have so I can give room to a different hidden power typing that I might need. The hidden powers are 90 base power, which is insane. Water Pulse is another 90 base power move. Thunderbolt, Power Gem, Dark Pulse, Shadow Ball, Icy Wind is 83 base power, so an ice move that is more powerful than a Shadow Ball, and can also lower speed is really, really nice. It's just fantastic, and paired with Nasty Plot, I think it's really good. So I'm a big fan of it. So this is the other tier 5 steal. I had to pick these tier 5s early because I couldn't let these good tier 5s go while I picked my other mons, because by the end of the draft, the tier 5 list, the board is looking pretty barren in terms of mons that you can reasonably see yourself bringing. So I definitely had to go for Pawniard here, and I do think that Pawniard is really, really useful, and I do think a Swords Dance plus stab priority in Pawniard is really, really nice. It used to be, once again, better in Gen 6 than in Gen 7, because of Sucker Punch's higher base power, but I still think that the 70 base power priority move is really, really useful. And it's especially useful in the sense that it also has things like Iron Head knockoff, which I said was a very, very important thing in this format with Violet users running around and other sort of niche items running around that other mons rely on. It also gives me a third stealth rocker. It's obviously not the best stealth rocker, but it's usable. I definitely think it's 100% usable with anything really. Just even if I'm forcing a switch and able to go for stealth rocks there. Super, super nice. And steel types, I don't have one yet, and they're sort of luxurious in this format. And obviously this isn't like a bulky steel type, but I do think offensively it's still pretty nice to have. And the other thing I'm a little bit worried about is sticky web. I'm just generally not great against it. I mean, I'm okay against it. I've never lost to it, but like, it's nice to have an immediate check with Defiant in it. And since Pawniard has Sucker Punch, it doesn't really care about the speed drop. So Pawniard's really, really cool here. Next mon is Arbok. I was pretty hesitant about picking it up. Yeah. I don't know. I really like it. I was really hesitant picking it up because I thought that it was going to be sort of mediocre given its stat distribution, and it just ended up becoming a lot better than I thought it would be. Looking at its move pool, because it does have that like really, really nice, insane Gen 1 coverage, Aqua Tail, Crunch, Earthquake, you can see it all there. I mean, it's fantastic. Yeah, I really like it. It also checks the Sucker Punch priority box because looking for that priority, the end of the draft, I'm sort of scrambling to see which mods I can get that are, you know, priority, have a ton of priority, and I think this is my 5th one, might be my 4th, I'm not 100% sure. And then Intimidate is also super useful to have. That's what sort of makes or break it. Intimidate like can make a team go from like good to great, so I really like it. And then its other abilities are really useful. Unnerve, because niche berries might be flying around. Shed Skin, also very, very useful for, you know, if you're gaining status, it functions as a good switch into any status move. Or if you want to use Rest on it, like it's really, really nice. It gets Coil, which is sort of its main niche. Sometimes, I don't know if I'll be running Coil too much because I think it's just a good offensive mon on its own, but I might run Coil every now and then, and it's a really nice Z user. I really enjoy it because I think that with its insane coverage, it can, you know, use Z moves to its advantage. And Coil is also really nice because it allows you to run Gunk Shot, because one Coil will, you know, allow Gunk Shot to hit, I think 100% of the time, so that's really, really nice. Yeah, alright. Floatzel. I was just looking for a quick ice resist. I think it was really, really just a nice quick patch for it, sort of saving the life of the team, and I guess that's what Floatzel's there to do. And like I said, I was looking for one offensive water to end up working out, and I think in Tier 4, Floatzel is really, really nice because it can be run physically or specially. I think it does have a level of unpredictability to it that is especially more viable here. I think a special Floatzel is very viable if I need it, or even a mixed Floatzel is very viable if I need it, more so here than in other leagues that are not low-tier leagues. Gives me the final priority user, and it's one of the best priority users on my team with Stab. Aqua Jet is very, very useful. You can set up with Bulk Up. Z Bulk Up's really, really nice because it is essentially working like Swords Dance, and if I'm also running a fighting physical move, I can choose to either go for the Z Bulk Up or go for the whatever the fighting Z move is. I don't remember what it is. It's like Corkscrew Crash? No, that's Steel. Maybe it's like Pummeling something. Pummeling, I don't know. But that was sort of the idea behind it. And yeah, it's just a good Z user. Ice move, Z ice move, Z fighting move, Z water move, Z steel move. It definitely does have a decent amount of coverage to use it, and paired with setup works out really, really well. I just think it's a good all-around mon that can really punish teams for being somewhat water weak, not drafting too many good water resists. So the last mon, I was so debating between so many different things for Tier 3. I was like, so I was originally going to draft Victory Bell, and then something else instead of drafting Torterra and Arbok. But I decided to just split Victory Bell up into one Grass Mon and one Poison Mon because I did want another Stealth Rocker, just to make sure that a third of my team was Stealth Rockers, and that's pretty useful. And everyone was telling me to go Leafeon. I was debating between Leafeon, Executor, Alolan Executor, Lilligant, Lurantis, I think is what another one's called. I was thinking Tangela, but that might have already been taken. I ended up going Torterra, and I was about to, like 4 minutes before the draft, go Leafeon, and I talked to my man, Steven Thurston, who is my OWL teammate. Fantastic guy. That's why this Torterra is named Thurston. And, he's also really close, and he loves Torterras. So he really sold me on it. He told me I needed to he told me my team would be much better with a 4th Stealth Rocker. The 4 times weakness isn't that bad because I have Gastrodon and other 4 times weak mons that force my teammates to go for something like HP Grass over HP Ice. And that lack of coverage for Torterra and lack of focus on Torterra allows it to either be very bulky or be an awesome setup sweeper with Rock Polish and Swords Dance, or just be a sort of a sub-seeder or a bulky Stealth Rocker or anything like that. It has really strong stab in both Wood Hammer and Earthquake, which is really fantastic. Nothing below a 100 base power. Things like Stone Edge, Outrage, Iron Head, and definitely a lot more besides that. A Crunch, I know for sure. So that makes it a very fantastic Z move user, and I think Torterra is going to be a really nice addition to the team. And for some reason, my last picks on my team, the ones that I sort of just choose on a whim for pick 12 or pick 11, depending on how many picks the draft is, end up being really successful on my team. Porygon Z and ABC, Yanmega and Owl both worked out pretty well for me. So, Zweilous for us in ZUL works really, really well. So, hopefully this carries that sort of legacy, per se. So that's the team. That's the whole team, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I mean, maybe I'll make a free agent if I don't like it. It's hard to get a read on it because these are all mons that you don't see sort of shining on their own. Usually they desire support from stronger, more OU, UU mons, but they don't exist in this league. So things like Pangoro are going to be really the star of the show in this league. And I'm really excited to see if it ends up working out. I'm really excited. So I'm going to be interested to see how these work on their own, absent any sort of high tier support. But that's obviously why I'm a little more cautious. But I'm not thinking to myself there's anything I would have rather drafted. I'm very satisfied with what this is, and I am very excited to use it in these next 12 weeks, and hopefully playoffs, hopefully far into playoffs as well. So just looking back on the goals, I do think I drafted a good team. Like I said earlier, I'm very happy with it. There's nothing I'd change. Looking at it now, maybe in 5 weeks I'll hate it and I'll do a few free agents, but as of now, I really, really like the team, and I'm glad that I'm using it. But the biggest thing is fixing errors from previous drafts, thinking about top 2 hazard clears. I drafted those early in Rotom and Golbat. I wanted to get those out of the way in the first half of the draft. And then also I wanted to pick bulky mons with recovery, Gastrodon, Golbat, Magcargo, Torterra, all very, very useful. And then the high tier ground resistant immunities. All my major ground resistant immunities are high tier mons from tier 1 to T2, Torterra in tier 3. And then my weaknesses are things like Magcargo, Pawniard in tier 5 that don't really care that much. So it ends up working out. And then the key traits of the draft that I've tried to continue, Floatzel and Gastrodon fill the waters, numerous priority users you can see there. And that doesn't include things like Quick Attack, Electivire, or Sucker Punch Rotom. So it ends up working out. I think when more than half your team is somewhat of a priority option, then that's really, really clean, and I'm pretty happy with it. And 3 of these 5 main priority users, they're stab priority, and they're also pretty powerful priority as well. So I'm pretty happy with what it is. And then the Magcargo and Pawniard as low tier value picks. Definitely think they're very good. I think I'm going to bring them just as much as I'm going to bring some high tier mons that I picked for this, maybe just as much as Golbat or just as much as Mesprit or whatever. I think they're all very useful, and will find a very, very, very useful spot on any team that I construct for this league, especially in rematches too. when you're trying to diversify your teams. It's going to be really, really nice. That's it. That's the team. Just going back to this page, I really, really like it, and I hope you do too. Let me know if you think I'm missing anything, or if I'm missing any sort of like thing that you think is important, or if you think the draft is bad, or you're excited for the league. We do play Matt week 1, and I'm really excited for it. He sort of got me into this community, and he's a really, really nice guy. And yeah, I'm excited to play him. That's about it. So see you in week 1.